City Council meeting for the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, Monday, April 6, 2015. If all rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Patty, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Gerald Cohen. Here. Councilmember Pamela Gunn. Here. Councilmember Mitchell Croft.
Here.
Councilmember John Petrowski.
Here.
Councilmember Wanda Schwer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Leslie Otero. Here. Mayor Rob Baldwin.
Here.
City Manager Nancy Gonzalez. Here. Finance Officer Melanie Cruzona. Here. City Attorney Paul Marino.
Here.
Community Services Director Alan Godfrey.
Here. All right, thank you, Patty. We have a couple of presentations. I think that the microgrid from Todd City may be a little bit late. So if it's okay, we'll start with Chief Sam. If you would like to give an update on the EMS legislative bill and Fire Station 26.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Yes, it's been a long several weeks. Myself and Commissioner Gardella, the fire commissioner that represents Bel Air Shore, Bel Air Beach, we were in Tallahassee. We had an opportunity to speak with Senator Latvala, Senator Brandis, with regards to the legislation that's in Tallahassee. It was about a month, 2 months ago, I apprised the council members and the mayor with respect to the Emergency Medical Service Authority amending the Pinellas County, which is amending Chapter 80-585 with regards to the EMS Authority. Currently, the EMS Authority is the Board of County Commissioners. The piece of legislation that's currently in Tallahassee now has a House Bill number. It's House Bill 1335. That's House Bill 1335. It was filed by Representative Kathleen Peters. It's going through the committee process. It's currently assigned to the Local and Federal Affairs Committee, and the first reading was 3/31/15. Now, this is a local bill. So my understanding, what I was told, it does not need a Senate companion. So right now, if this goes through the legislative process and it can eventually be signed into law this session, July 1, 2015. In essence, what this does is it takes, for instance, the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District, with regards to if this passes and becomes law, instead of the Board of County Commissioners, the EMS Authority, it now will consist of a 9-person board or 9-member board. And subsection B, or section 1B, one member shall be appointed by the combined municipal governing bodies of the cities of Largo, Bel Air Bluffs, Bel Air Beach, and Bel Air Shores. So for instance, Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District, we cover Bel Air Shore, Bel Air Beach. We also have Indian Rocks Beach, Indian Shores, and a portion of the mainland. So if this becomes law without anything else on this bill changing, we could in essence have a representative from Bel Air Shore, Bel Air Beach. The way the legislation reads, it does not speak to how the members are appointed, but I just want you to be aware that it's possible, unless this does not make it through committee, then we will continue to do business as such with regards to the EMS Authority. My understanding, the Board of County Commissioners, the current EMS Authority, will still have the authority, if you will, to approve the budget. But this board here has more of an inclusion type of event to where, in the essence, throughout the county, there's a 9-person board, like I stated, throughout various portions of the county, and they will bring forth the budget requests to the county commissioners. So, are there any questions on this? Because this is going to briefly lead me into my next portion of the EMS with regards to the House bill.
Who appoints the other 8 people?
Excuse me, sir?
Who appoints the other 8 people?
That's it. From my understanding, for instance, one member shall be appointed by the municipal governing body of the city of Clearwater. It doesn't speak into here, if you were to print this out, it doesn't speak into how those individuals get appointed. You know, it talks about each member shall be appointed for a 2-year term. Any member of the authority is eligible for reappointment except that the member may not serve more than 3 consecutive terms. it doesn't go into here how they're chosen. It speaks to where the members will come from. One member shall be appointed by the City Council of the City of St. Petersburg, for instance. And there will be, according to this, one member shall be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners of Pinellas County. So that's just how it speaks and reads.
I did have a question. I mean, if this passes, how will that change service here in Bel Air Beach? Will it change who the first responder is, or how does that work?
That's the next portion of what we're trying to accomplish at Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District. One of the things that as taken over as fire chief, I've looked at the geography of the district, if you will. To answer your question, no. We believe that even throughout the county, it's the closest unit response, regardless if it's Pinellas Suncoast, Clearwater, Largo. What we're trying to do at Pinellas Suncoast Fire is look at the geography of the district and put Station 26 back in Indian Shores where it belongs. Then you have Station 27, which is in Indian Rocks Beach. Part of our 5-year plan, which we've started meeting with various administrators throughout the cities and the towns, is looking at Station 27. 27 is at 304 First Street in Indian Rocks Beach. I feel as the fire chief, taking that station, moving it further north to around the 2400 block in Indian Rocks Beach provides us a better level of coverage because of the geography we have here in the district. There's a lot of finger streets where our response times are affected. And one of the benchmarks that I'm using is NFPA 1710, which is the standard for fire deployment operational response. That's on the fire side and EMS side. So one of the things that we're looking at in the district is that. And we have Station 28, which is over on the mainland. One of the things that, as a fire chief, the other thing I have to do is take a look at what is the fairness and equitable ratio, if you will, of our tax dollars, the way they're being apportioned throughout the entire EMS system. Now, I'm talking just about EMS. Part of this bill leads me to my next discussion with regards to the funding, if you will, for EMS. The current system that was put into law back in, I believe, in 1980, which is 80-585. We, as fire departments, fire districts, we go to the EMS authority every year for budget requests, funding requests. So, for instance, in Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District, in 2010, the EMS authority of Pinellas County, they defunded and eliminated the funding for Pinellas Suncoast Truck 28, which is on the mainland. However, the residents of PSFRD continue to fund the entire EMS system, if you will, because it is a countywide system with a countywide millage rate, with an additional $636,000 that year. In 2011, the fire district, they defunded or eliminated the funding for our personnel for Rescue 26, which was Station 26 in Indian Shores. We're now trying to, in July 1st, hope to have that back up and running. The residents, though, from 2010 through 2011 through 2014, looking at the financial numbers, the residents of this fire district continued to fund an additional over $6 million into the EMS system. So when I break it down, I looked at it over 20 years, on average over those 2010 to 2014, let's just take 2014 for instance, for every dollar that was collected in that EMS millage rate in my fire district, 70 cents was redistributed back into the county, 30 cents was brought back into for our EMS funding. Now I'm asking the county for a little bit fair and equitable ratio of that tax dollar coming back into this fire district for the funding of our paramedics. Sitting down with the county on the 22nd to go over our budget requests to fund our Station 26 and Station 28. I know it's a lot of information, but I'm just trying to bring you up to speed on what's happening in our fire district. I too am a taxpayer now of the district, so I'm very concerned on where our tax dollars go. So those are some of the things from a financial side that we're looking at. I spoke to Indian Rocks Beach, I spoke to their commissioners last week, provided them the same information, and they are stepping up, and they wrote a letter to the county commissioners asking for, from the mayor, for, to assist with regards to funding our Station 26 and getting it back to a fair, equitable level of funding. In an example I have here, Bel Air Beach, fiscal year 2012-2013. You're almost 20% of this fire district's assessed valuation of our district. So with the EMS millage rate of 0.9158, that's $435,000 just from Bel Air Beach with regards to the countywide millage rate. The EMS allocation back into our district was $126,000. My point is we as a district want to work with the other fire departments. That's not the issue. The issue is that we want a fair return on that tax dollar that's leaving the district. And really, if there's any questions with that, I'd be happy to answer them, but I certainly would like to know as far as support, in supporting us in our endeavor as far as trying to get Station 26 and having our paramedics funded with the tax dollars coming out of this district. And that's really one of the reasons why I was here tonight, was to bring you up to speed on the legislative bill and just go over the EMS funding. That will certainly assist with the response times, because when you bring Station 26 back, it now helps us, it frees up Station 27 and Station 28 to where we can try to start to meet that NFPA 17 standard with regards to response times. When you're dealing with cardiac arrests and heart attacks and strokes, it may not be the number of calls that you have, but it's very important to get to that house or to that residence within the allotted, if it's 240 seconds for basic life support or 480 seconds for the advanced life support. The bottom line is that's what saves lives. It's as we've explained, it's not always the number of calls, but it's the getting to that residence and getting there safely. Some of the issues that we have in other portions of our district is when you get to the building, that's one component, but now you have to traverse up 9, 10, 11 flights of stairs or whatever the case may be, even if you're in an elevator. So there's an added response time there. So in our business, seconds do count and seconds do save lives. So I thank you for your time.
Any questions? Thank you, that was helpful. It helps me understand a little bit why the Station 26 is important.
It's very
The
important.
whole funding issue. I did have a question, I guess, because you mentioned at the onset that the first responder is the closest station, which I guess in Bel Air Beach would actually be the one on Sand Key. Is that true?
There's, in some cases, that is absolutely correct. And as the fire chief, again, I have no issues. If it's a fire in my family and the call happens to be right across the line and that station's in there, that's who should go. It's the closest unit response.
Right.
With regards to the fire side of the equation, again, it's the same way. There's the run cards that are built, and the run cards, when a call comes into dispatch, they'll pick up the closest unit response. So there's portions of our fire district, that station, at Station 44, there are portions of our fire district where that station is closest. With Station 26 coming into the fray, you have to understand there was a report done by the county in 2013 in the southern portion of that district, of our district, and the report pretty much stated that yes, there's definitely a need for that unit to go back in service. And when you put that added unit back in service, it assists and frees up the response times and the unit availability throughout the entire county, not just our fire district, but now it's freeing up other units. So yes, to answer your question, there are certain instances where that unit is closer.
Right. You've got a mutual aid agreement or whatever it is.
That's correct, sir. There's mutual aid and automatic aid agreements.
Right.
Correct.
All right. Any questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
That was helpful. And I know there was a letter, I guess, that...
Yeah, he was, and the chief, I think, was asking for the council's support.
Right.
Yeah, I was asking for the support, but I obviously that's it. The board's pleasure. If you wanted to, we can certainly provide you the information, and I can show you with Indian Rocks Beach
Right.
with regards to their letter. But thank you for listening, and
Sure.
if I can get the support, that would be great.
Yeah, and I think you sent everybody a copy of that letter, so we have that, and we'll definitely address it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, we had Todd Gould, presentation on microgrids. Hopefully you got lots of numbers and charts and graphs.
Oh, yeah, all sorts of great stuff.
So So I guess just to give a little context, I mean, Todd is on the Gulf Boulevard Beautification Committee, sort of the subcommittee for underground utilities, and part of that whole discussion morphed into, different things, different ideas and options, and Todd sort of focused on a solar option, and that's what started this whole thing. And it was a pretty interesting, pretty compelling discussion, so we thought it might be helpful if you could share that with the council at large, so. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Mayor Baldwin and City Council. Today, the mayor asked me to speak a little bit on microgrids, and the reason we're talking about this, and just to bring it up to speed, is we have an aging infrastructure, and just on my way driving in, just looking at the poles going down Gulf Boulevard, they're bent this way, they're bent that way, some are bent this and that way, and the infrastructure is aging. It's 50, 60 years old now. And so we're looking at what are we going to do looking into the future and the benefits of the city of Bel Air Beach. So this really started, I think, by the undergrounding initiative to see what can we do to start moving these wires underground for a number of reasons. And as I started doing research on this, I came across the concept of microgrids. And microgrids are part of the Department of Energy as their smart grid program. And I'm sure if I remind you, about 12 years ago, we had a situation in the Northeast where a tree fell on a power line, on a transmission line in Cleveland, Ohio, and took out almost the entire Northeast. 50 million people were without power because of the way our current grid structure is set up. And what that means is there's a cascading effect throughout the grids, and there's no ability for any part of our legacy type infrastructure to shield itself off from the outside infrastructure. So as one section of the grid goes down and overloads, and then overloads the next and overloads the next, we have this cascading effect and we lose power all over the country. So the Department of Energy has been working diligently on other concepts and how we can avoid this. At the same time, we have the convergence of green energy. And particularly here in Florida, the ability with the amount of sunshine we get, that obviously solar is a big incentive here. So that's what's really brought us around. So microgrids are a particular technology and way it's setting up an electrical grid within a community or within a campus, or even, they even call them picogrids, or even smaller, for like your house can be its own grid. So this is part of how we should be looking forward for the city of Bel Air Beach and as we upgrade our infrastructure and what we do. So the most basic concept of what is a microgrid. Microgrid is a power system, whether it's above ground, below ground, doesn't make any difference, but the idea is that it is a self-contained system. It does connect to the outside world. It can have power come in from the regular power companies like Duke Energy or somebody else, just as we connect right now coming over the bridge to the South Indian Rocks, to the north to Sand Key. The power can come in like that, but the grid itself also has those as points where it can turn that off or shut it out. So a microgrid can be disconnected from the outside grids and operate autonomously. Now obviously, if there's no power within the grid, if you shut it out, you have no power and that does no good, and that's where alternative energy sources come in. And the idea is that if you had solar power within your grid, an abundance of solar power, that even if we lost all our power from the outside world, we could still be powering and energizing our own grid. This would prevent us in situations that if there was a power failure that cascaded through Florida, we could simply not participate in that, shut ourselves off, and have power on the beach. Another strong reason that we might want to do that is obviously in the event of a major weather event, where we did get cut off for major reasons. With the ability to have a microgrid which can isolate this, that as soon as we were stabilized, particularly the homes with solar power, and with enough solar power, we could bring the island back up, which means we do not have refrigerators going down, we have air conditioning, we're reducing mold issues, we're reducing all sorts of other life-saving issues on the island. In recovering from an event, we can heal a lot faster. The ability also of the grid, as being its own power grid, allows us to bring in alternative energy in addition to solar. As fuel cell technology comes in, there are fuel cells now that are about the size of a semi-trailer that produce clean energy out of hydrogen and other things that literally can produce megawatts and megawatts and megawatts of energy, and could be set up in strategic places throughout the city if we went that direction, whether it be here in the lot at City Hall and other places where we could literally be generating electricity through other power. Then what's really becoming interesting is the ability to store power. And because we would actually generate more power than we need during the day, I mean, if every house in this city had solar on its roof, we would be generating an abundance of electricity. Now, two things we could do is we could, through net metering, which means the ability to sell the electricity back through the power grid, the individuals could push it back up to Duke Energy and your meter actually spins backwards at that time. Or if we had the ability to store energy through battery technology, and particularly interesting coming out of Tesla and the technologies there, the ability to build these sheds that can actually store the electricity and buffer is really becoming unbelievable. The benefit of the microgrid is the technology does not have to exist today. The microgrid is a smart grid with smart power management and the ability to adapt and bring in other sources of energy, other storage as they become invented and become available is exactly what the microgrid is designed for. So even though we might not have the technology today to implement, by implementing a microgrid in the city, as those became available, even if it's 10 years from now, we could then be sitting in here and saying, okay, we'd like to bring in a megawatt storage facility that's the size, of a bus or the size of a car, who knows, and the ability to bring that in. And just to get off on a little tangent, it was very interesting that electric cars are actually in a microgrid within a house could actually reverse the energy out of the electric car and go back into the house in an emergency need, and the actual car itself could be the storage for a household. So just going over the basics real fast, so you have this mini power distribution system, and the idea of a microgrid is not particularly its size, functionality, and the ability that it is smartly balancing loads and different sources and storage within its own system. Said it connects to legacy power, so whether it's Duke Energy or whoever else would connect still at those interconnection points at the edge and supply. The microgrid could be run exactly as we use power today, where everybody in the city still buys electricity from Duke, the power comes in, but the grid itself would functionally be able to disconnect or have additional things added to it as we go along, and it could be done in a way that it would not disrupt anything or change the way anything's doing and what anybody's doing, but would allow us to start building for the future without any major changes to how we function today. As I said, they can contain internal power generation like solar or fuel cells, can contain internal power storage. One of the hallmarks of the microgrid, as I mentioned, is its ability to act autonomously. If it disconnects from all external sources, you get to continue running electricity within your grid. It facilitates net metering, and just to refresh what net metering is, which is available in Florida, net metering says that as an individual, if you're generating more power than you're consuming through like your solar, you actually can sell it back to the system. And there's a whole discussion in and of itself of things that can benefit the city or the city can do to encourage that benefit from that. And again, it supports current and future technologies. So the question is, who is really supporting and doing this? I mentioned when I started, the Department of Energy has a lot of information on this and is really moving forward. It is their goal to stabilize the power infrastructure, particularly after that massive outage, and that's not the only one. We have outages occurring all the time throughout this country. Our entire nation's infrastructure is dated at this point and needing of upgrade and modernization. The Department of Defense is really a leader in this. They are now going through and they're taking every military base, and they've started with a few as tests, but they're going through every military base in this country and setting them up as their own microgrids. And that way, because they see the cost benefit and they see the advantages of that, they do not want the base going down because of an external power issue. And so this is becoming this is going on at several bases right now, and it is going to be ultimately implemented at every base in the country. There are also some interesting programs going on right now in Maryland and New York. And those are two that I just picked out, but there are projects going on all over the place. So the question here is, why Bel Air Beach? Why should we do this? What are we looking at? And as I started with, our infrastructure is falling apart. We can keep patching it, but really, every year we're paying more and more and more, and every one of you know what your summer electric bill looks like. And by going to the point where we can be solar and using the microgrid as part of an overall strategy, I have a friend over in Safety Harbor, his electric bill last July was $19. That was it. So the fact is, we have tons of sun that we don't use here. That would be a huge benefit to the city. By going on a microgrid, we ultimately control our own destiny as a city. And I started really looking at the numbers, and if we actually had, in addition to a microgrid, that we had an overall solar green objective here, and our goal was 100% solar coverage in the city, we would literally be generating 100% of the needs of this city. That there would not be a resident that needed to buy power from outside. Everything would be generated with inside. There's a few more technology. Obviously, the ability to store so that electricity is available in the night hours would be necessitated. But the ability to actually generate that much electricity to support the city is current technology does that. We can create that. The biggest obstacle we have right now, there are 3 obstacles: Duke Energy, Duke Energy, and Duke Energy. I have a written report that goes into a little more detail that I delivered to you, but Duke is on record that they are completely against microgrids unless they own and operate them. Then they think they're wonderful. There is an incredible amount of lobbying going on and work to prevent this by the major power companies because this is good for us. And that's not good for Duke, which, I don't know if you know at this point, is the largest energy provider in the country at this point. So we're battling the biggest guy out there. So I've come up with a possible approach, because obviously it's going to take a little jujitsu with them. We need to use their bulk and their weight to kind of get them to do what we want them to do. So as we move, and I think there is a desire, we need to, whether we underground, replace everything overground, or do whatever, we need to upgrade our infrastructure. It is getting to the point where it's going to need a major upgrade. Anecdotally, today I was speaking to a consultant I use for my company for something different, and he found, he happened to, just the other day, there was a company out there with a single machine that was trenching the underground wires up in Beverly, Massachusetts. It literally was a truck that was digging in the trench in the middle. The conduit and everything was being laid in the middle, and the back of it was covering it up as it went. The device, this truck is made in Germany. It runs about $12 million. So he talked to the foreman and said, what's the cost on this?
That's cheap.
Yeah. So he said, what's the cost compared to having the energy company? This is an independent company that's doing this. He says their cost is about 1/30 of the cost of having the local power monopoly underground wires in that area. So not having Duke, and that's another discussion, but not having Duke do our new grid is probably going to cost us a fraction of what it would cost to have Duke in there. We can always pay Duke Energy, or they can collect from us, however, to manage and operate whatever infrastructure we put in. But I think whatever we do, we should be looking at that the ownership of the infrastructure should be the city of Bel Air Beach. We pay for it, we should own it, and that opens up future options for us. If we look at creating a citywide initiative for low-cost funding for solar, and there's a number of options, and that's a whole presentation itself, what we can do to really encourage getting solar usage and net metering and getting solar out there in the houses. I believe Gainesville, Florida in 2009 did a little deal where, and I didn't quite 100% understand it, but the best I understood was they basically had a surcharge from the city on your bill if you didn't adopt solar. So there was a little non-green surcharge, or however they put it, but if you actually put solar into your house, you didn't have to pay it, and it wasn't a lot. That idea, and they were the first city in the country to do it. They had a target for X number of megawatts to go online in 2009. it was satisfied in 3 weeks. The 2010, which is the last number I had, theirs was, it was satisfied like in 4 weeks. You know, their goal of getting that many people to convert over to solar by providing that kind of incentive. Right now, there are grants and obviously historically unprecedented low interest rates on bonds and things we can do to float to really subsidize going with solar and undergrounding and everything else. And the goal would be to break free of the Duke Energy monopoly at the time, have everything in place. Because none of this is going to happen overnight, and it's going to take some years to get this going, but with the goal that when the franchise agreement does come up next time, that we're in a position to break free and not renew the franchise. Or we could be in a much stronger position to negotiate a much better deal for supplemental power, whatever it may be. But we wouldn't be approaching head-on any need for legal issues today and fighting, you know, attorneys that are paid $2,000 an hour to not allow us to do what's in our best interest. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I'm
So, I mean, that's the basic, I can answer some, I will post-word this saying I'm not an expert in electrical power distribution or energy. I do run a technology company, so this has just been research and studying that I've been doing. But everything I've been reading is that this is the way that the Department of Energy is recommending any new infrastructures being put in place for power for all the reasons there. And it'll be a benefit even if we stay, connected to Duke and are in that situation. It's still going to have a better infrastructure for us going along. So that's what I have for you tonight.
That's good, thank you, Todd. Questions from council, Pam? Any thoughts or ideas?
Well, to go to solar power, it's like when you put in solar panels on your roof.
Yeah.
I know they've come a long way. Some of them even look like roof shingles.
Sure.
What's the cost per house to put something like that in?
Well, again, that's really not my expertise, but just from the types of things I have done in the past, we can do it a couple ways. I mean, the cost is coming down every month. I mean, the prices are just descending and the efficiencies are going up. The several things that I've heard specifically are that we would want, when people are going out and they're getting their deals and negotiating their various deals to get their solar, the person will come in, do you want 100% solar coverage or 50% of what your usage is? And I think we would really want an initiative where everybody's doing 100%, and it wasn't a question of did they have the money to do it right now, because putting in 50% really doesn't do, ultimately at the end of the day, doesn't do any good. We want people to have 100% power or surplus would even be better. We can look into ways that if the city has an issue at some point, we could find a way to get a city deal. If a company knew that they had 800 units that they were going to be able to have access to, we could probably negotiate a substantially reduced price, doing a consolidated buy type of deal than an individual would one-on-one.
What limits does the city have now for solar panels on the roof? Do we have any objection to those, or?
No, I don't think there's any specific, nothing that would impede you to be able to.
Just discretion?
Yeah,
Mayor, may I make some comments on the same thing,
yes,
same subject?
yeah.
Jim Corrigan, I live in 22nd Street. And I stopped the office here today to pick up the agenda, which I normally do. And your portion was listed on there, was it micro what?
Microgrid.
Microgrid. And we couldn't determine, Nancy and I discussed it, we couldn't really determine what it is. And Pam was going to Google it, I was going to be successful, but anyway, I went back home and dug into my own information. It turned out that I are one. I put in the solar panels December last year because of the tax credit of 30%, which was going to expire December 31. So I vigorously got ahead of that thing. And was kind of anxious. I'd read a great deal about solar collection and so forth. And still had some reservations, but we went ahead. And I got my first bill from Duke Energy. And by the way, they're not friends. But I got my bill and I used $127 worth of electricity from Duke. But I produced $128. They owe me $1.16. So I have a credit balance with Duke right now, just from the solar collectors. I can monitor it daily on my internet, exactly how many, what do they call them, KHWs that I get?
Kilowatt hours.
Kilowatt hour, right. So I know how many I'm getting, and that was based upon 600. I'm reading it now, and I'm currently pulling in about 701. So it's going to be a better credit from Duke. And some person on the line, I think they're going to get upset about me. But there are very aggressive groups right now, as you mentioned, against Duke. In fact, Duke is going to install, I think, 12 to 15 of their own solar facilities throughout the state. So they've turned a page or two, and they're getting away from coal and gas and going to solar. One of the problems that exists, as far as I'm concerned, Duke is the only one who can sell total solar power. I can't sell any power to you that I create every day. And that's a big item because there's many people waiting to get into solar as a market to sell it. The ideal location I have are carports at an apartment complex. They're just metal roofs, just waiting to have panels on there, solar collectors and so forth, which I can either sell back to the tenants or sell to Duke and so forth. But there's legislation coming up now, there's a very active commission to get that right through where we can sell it and so forth. And I think that'll be successful. But I just want to make these comments because they're very appropriate. It's a route we're going to go. We've got the contractors here in the county, some of them the best in the country, is Solar Source, and I've dealt with them 12, 15 years ago. They put a solar collector of just hot water for the pool. And I run my pool 85 to 95. The summertime, it gets so warm you have to turn it off. So the energy is there. The big item that you brought up was very important, and that's the storage. We need the grid. We need the Duke grid for a place to put it.
Right.
But if we develop batteries or so forth, and have a place to put it here in the community, it would be ideal. I just wanted to make these comments. I thought it was very appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other, Gerald?
No, I mean, it's a huge subject to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty forward-thinking. I think to me, it's pretty exciting because if we talk about all the money that we spend underground or to repair the infrastructure. If you put all that money into a concept like this, and even if you just relied on net metering and you went down to having no electric bill and you couldn't store it, which would be the ultimate goal, I mean, you're still way, way far ahead of where we are today. And that's why, I was excited when Todd first mentioned it, and I've checked into it a little bit as well. I go to Europe sometimes. In Germany, there's like solar panels all over the place in Germany. And the sun never shines, which is weird to me, but they make a lot of their own energy from solar panels.
But would this be an all or nothing project? Every house would have to agree and unit, or none?
I think if we wanted to carry it forward as a city, we would carry it forward as a city. I think that would be the idea, is to make an initiative that's a citywide initiative.
Yeah, I think like I was reading in some of the cities, what they're doing is you have the option, but if you're not, basically, everybody pays a fee, like a city, and I forget, there's a particular name for it, you pay a fee. The idea would be ultimately if we make our own municipal power, or co-op, or however we want to set it in the city, which then takes care of a lot of the net metering stuff, because now we're the power company.
Right.
And then we could say, sure, you can sell back into the city of Bellerby, so that's fine. But this ability to set up, and it's nominal charges, but you say, first of all, you'd be crazy not to do it once you're doing it, because sure, look, we're paying $400 a month in the summer right now to air condition these homes. I mean, can you only imagine what it's gonna be in 5 or 6 or 10 years from now? I mean, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be more than the mortgages on these houses. It's more than the mortgage for some people right now. But what we can do is we can make it so there's an incentive to be solar. If you are solar, you get a credit which offsets the fee. So that essentially, if you're doing solar, it's free. You're not paying the fee, and if you're not, you're not. The point of the microgrid here actually is that it's not an all or nothing, but if we're going to move forward with undergrounding, to make sure that the switches and the transformers and everything we're using are using the smart technology that's compatible with the microgrid, so that when we're ready to function as a microgrid, we've already put the right devices in place. And we're ready to do that. And it's just saying, is the microgrid, and just to mention, a microgrid is any electrical system that can be self-sustaining. So when somebody does solar in their house, they're actually creating a little microgrid within their own house, and ours would be a community microgrid. And on at like a military base, that's a campus microgrid. So it's not really the size, but it's these features of being able to connect or disconnect, be able to power within, and ultimately storage. So what we're looking at is something that's flexible for the future. And if we're going to make an investment in money right now, let's invest in something that isn't just reduplicating what we have now, that we're turning around and now we still need to put out the money all over again to update the system in 5 years when there's no option but to go this way.
Mayor, I do have a question.
Sure.
Where does the legislature stand on this?
I don't really know where the legislature stands on this. It's a I would think that the actual technology is just the implementation technology. It's not nothing needs to change as far as Duke and transmission or anything. It's just the technology putting it at the endpoints. I doubt there would be anything against a microgrid in here, because you can't even have solar in a house without it being a microgrid of its own. But I'm certainly not an expert on that or could really answer it directly.
Paul?
While you're talking, Mr. Gould, I was sitting here reading the franchise agreement we had with Florida Power, now Duke.
Yes.
Nancy, this says it expired in 2011.
Who renewed it?
We did, because I don't see it in the
15
book.
years.
I don't have it in the book. So we have
For
renewed it.
15 years?
Yes.
Was that what they mandated?
No, that's what the city attorney.
Well, that's what,
Because it used to be years ago, 30 years.
it was 30, and I got it down to 10, and then I would confer with our former city manager meeting. I was thinking 15.
It could be 10, I have to.
So we're talking about from 2011.
Yeah.
But there's a way of getting around one of the provisions. If you don't have a copy of this agreement, Mr. Gould,
I believe I do. Yeah. I had read over it and it seemed, I mean, there's ways around. I mean, the bottom line is net metering is allowed. We can have solar, and the bottom line is everybody's bill's going to go to zero. And I think at that point, Duke is probably going to want to renegotiate something, then be stuck with an agreement that's making zero money to them.
I seem to remember they were at 30 and we compromised at 15, if that's my recollection. They're not easy to deal with, you know.
No, they're not. Really?
But we don't have to deal with it. We can still accomplish a lot without dealing with it all.
Yeah. I mean, I guarantee you they're gonna make us pay them a lot to tear their lines out, or tear our lines out that they adopted. When we get underground, we'll stop to remove all the poles and all of that. They're gonna probably, everything's a profit center to do.
Okay, anything else?
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll continue this discussion in the subcommittee, but I just thought it
Thank
was
you.
worthy of getting everyone's attention.
Thank you, if you excuse me, gotta take care of business.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right. So we'll go back to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Approval of March 2nd, 2015 City Council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Citizens' comments. If there's anyone that would like to speak on a topic that's not on the agenda, be limited to 3 minutes. Seeing no one, we will close the citizens' comment portion. Item number 4, proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2015 as Water Conservation Month, proclaiming April 7th, 2015 as National Service Recognition Day. Do I have a motion for the proclamations?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item number 5, regular agenda, consideration of accepting the comprehensive annual financial report. Thank you for being patient. You remember that, a lot of that stuff you weren't intending.
Good evening, Mayor Baldwin and City Council. I appreciate being here tonight. My name is Janine Bittinger. I am one of the audit partners with Davidson, Jameson, and Christini. We're the city auditors. And you have in front of you the report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2014. I'll just go over some highlights briefly, and then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to elaborate on anything you'd like to discuss further. Just point out a few highlights. The first part of the report is a letter of transmittal, which is written by your finance director. The next portion is the independent auditor's report, starting on page 3, which is an unqualified opinion, the highest opinion that we can render. After that, I would really encourage you to read the management discussion and analysis. I think that gives you a good perspective of what the fiscal year looked like for the city. And again, that is written by your finance director, who does a tremendous job. And it compares and contrasts actually both fiscal years. So there's a lot of very valuable information, just kind of an overview of the year. After that, we get into the financial statements, which start on page 19. And start out with a statement of net position. This is a full accrual statement of the city. This includes the capital assets and the debt that the city has. Page 20 is the correlating statement, the statement of activities, which is also the full accrual. And you can see it was a very good year, looking back to 29, which is the end of this, 21, excuse me, page 21, the end of the statement. Change in net position. You've got to love governmental parlance. They want to change nomenclature quite frequently. My son-in-law actually works with one of the big 4 firms in the world, and he, Ernst & Young, he did an internship for me for a while, and when I tried to explain governmental accounting to him quickly, he was working on his master's degree at USF at the time. I said, Kyle, no matter what, the accounting equation is always the same, but government likes to change names. They don't use the names the commercial sector is. The commercial sector, you refer to the balance sheet, the income statement, and the net income. Well, in fact, we just changed again last year. Changed the nomenclature. Now instead of saying net income, we say change in net position, but that is what you have. So at the bottom of 21, we have change in net position. In governmental activities, we have a good surplus, $319,000, and even our business type activities, which we know is our marina fund, had a slight surplus of $2,318. So it was a good year on a full accrual basis, and that takes into consideration the debt, the depreciation on the assets, and everything on a full accrual basis. Then you flip to page 22. This is your balance sheet. This is really what you run your government on, what you budget on. You're usually on a modified accrual basis. The full accrual is just to make you more like a commercial entity. So on page 22, you can see we have general fund, capital projects fund, and then 23, which is supposed to enlighten you, not confuse you. I don't know which way it would go, but that we actually put in a reconciliation, since we're talking about 2 different sets of statements. And it goes from the fund balance, which you see below on 22. We see the $4,888,000, and that starts with the top, and we reconcile it back to that full accrual statement I was referring to earlier, and talk about what the differences are in the 2 methodologies. We have governmental capital assets. Those are all the assets owned by the city, and these are all at cost. They are not at market value. There's actually a new GASB out that is proposed that may change it at some time to market value. But right now, this is at cost, all of your assets, including your buildings, and less your accumulated depreciation. And then we also take into consideration, because on full accrual, we know we have debt with SunTrust Bank, so we have loan balance as year-end of $1,800,000, and then the interest, post-employment benefits, and compensated absences brings you down to the net position on the full accrual basis. The next page, again, this is more how we run the city. We have the general fund, capital projects fund, again, modified accrual basis. And again, we see it was a good year because general fund, now we did do a transfer between funds, which is typical, but if you look at the line where it says excess of revenues over under expenditures, we have surplus in our general fund of $337,223, so that's an excellent year. We spent some money out of capital projects, plus we do pay our debt out of our capital projects fund. So we did have a decrease in that fund. We had a negative $139,711, and then we actually had a transfer between funds to make up for that deficit because that was how we budgeted. But still, all in all, if you look at total governmental funds, we had a good increase of $197,000. So that was an excellent year. 2014 was an excellent year. Page 25, again, we reconcile between the two statements, between the number we just talked about and what was shown previously on a full accrual basis, and go through the elements. The one page I really do want to point out, because this is always a good report card since the council passes the budget, page 26, we look at the budget actual statements. You see the original budget, the final budget, and then our actual numbers. And in the far column there, we see the variance between the numbers. And positive is not bracketed, which is favorable variance. And you can see, if you're looking down the entire column, every one of them is positive. So obviously the council passed a very good budget, staff adhered to it, and it was, again, an excellent year. You were definitely in compliance with the budget in total. You can see total revenue surpassed the budget by $37,000. Further down, you can see total expenditures exceeded the budget by $173,000. So again, just a very, very good year. There's not too many changes in the format of this report as from the prior year. GASB kind of left us alone this year, but I did want to make a slight comment because you may see some of this in the press. Because I know there have been a lot of op-eds about pension plans. Well, of course, you do not have a defined benefit plan. I just wanted to make everyone aware of that, though, because you'll see press on this, because this is kind of the hot statement out there. 2 standards were passed by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and I've been asked frequently, what does that mean to a municipality? The issue is that the Auditor General of the state of Florida dictates what accounting we use. And our Auditor General has said we will follow GAAP. GAAP includes anything that is passed by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So that is mandatory. And the biggest one they've passed in a long time, they actually look at every standard theoretically every 10 years. It doesn't always happen. This is the first time in actually 15 years they looked at the pension standards. So if you'll see a lot of press, a lot of uproar over that topic, but I wanted you to be assured that doesn't really affect Bel Air Beach. But if you see it out there, you may want to know what it is. We also audit, as a firm, 27 pension plans all over the state of Florida, including some associated with some very big cities, like the city of West Palm Beach is one we audit 2 of their 3 defined benefit plans, and very, very large plans, police, fire, and they also have one for the general employees. The issue being that this year we did a reevaluation of all pension plans, the standalone reporting, and next year it'll be GASB 68, which will tell cities that they have to record the liability on their financial statements for the pension plans. This doesn't change the liability. I've had a lot of pension attorneys and a lot of administrators remind everyone of that. You know, nothing's changed. You've always had the liability. The only change is now we're being asked to book it on our financial statements. But the reason that it doesn't affect Bel Air Beach is all you have a defined contribution plan where you don't have the continuing obligation that you do when the municipality supports a plan. Once upon a time, when we had a police department, we did have such a plan. But of course, we know we contract now with the Sheriff's Department. We don't deal with that anymore. We do have 1 employee that's with the Florida retirement system. There will be a small liability booked next year on their behalf. That information will be given to us. The Florida Retirement System's working on that in conjunction with the Auditor General's office. Not going to have very much of an effect at all in the city, but I just wanted to make you aware since it's out there, it's going to be in the press, and it's going to be in the press more, I think, as we get closer to the year ended September 30th, 2015, when this comes into effect. But I would love to answer any questions you may have, and I also do want to thank everyone. This city has one of the most professional staffs of anyone that I have the pleasure of working with, an excellent city manager, and excellent finance director, and also city clerk, and I'm very grateful to them for all their help and assistance during the audit. They do a fabulous job. Any questions that I can answer at this time?
Any questions? I did have one question on the
Yes, ma'am.
unassigned fund balance. The $3,129,744. How does that compare as a percentage? I mean, I know that every city should have a certain reserve,
Right.
For emergencies, but this is our emergency.
Yes.
I guess it's not designated as such. And there's probably some guideline that says you should have X amount put back. I mean, how does this compare with that guideline?
Actually, you're somewhat on the high side, and you're right, there is a guideline. GFOA establishes guidelines just as guidance, basically, that they publish.
Right, and what is their guideline?
So I think they're saying 25%. I think you're even higher than that.
Yeah, we're like 200%.
Right, right.
That's not bad.
No, it's not. Well, especially where you're located on a beach community, so.
Yeah, it just sort of struck me, and I mean, it's always been that way, but I was curious
Right.
how it compared with what was, sort of required. So that's good. Okay, any other thoughts, questions? All right, so do I have a motion for approval? We need to approve this, correct? Yeah, to accept the comprehensive annual financial report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Melanie.
Melanie.
Thank you.
I don't know how it can ever get any better. Like every year, it's like better. We have to come up with new words to describe it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 6, consideration of approval of interlocal agreement between Pinellas County and the City of Bel Air Beach for building department services. Nancy, do you want to speak to this, or Alan?
Yeah, this is just, you did look at a draft copy, I think it was December and then again in January, and we did have a workshop and Glenn was there, and we did get the revised interlocal agreement. I did send it to City Attorney Marino for his approval, and Glenn is here if you have any questions, and we're looking forward with staying with Pinellas County Building Services.
Hi, Commissioners. Glenn Mordell, Pinellas County Building Department. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you for letting me speak to you. Interlocal agreement is a continuation of the services that we provide for the city residents and contractors with building permit services. If you have any questions, you're more than happy to answer them.
Any thoughts, comments, questions? And I do appreciate all the effort and the attention that you put into this. It's good. So, Paul, did you have any comments or anything on the agreement?
It's fine with me. I'm satisfied with the way it's presented. We had a couple fine tuning.
Nancy, any comments or?
Just, like I said, looking forward to another long relationship with the county.
Okay. So do I have a motion for approval of the?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you again, Glenn. Okay, item number 7, consideration of giving up 3 parking by permit only spaces in Morgan Park. Nancy?
Yes, we still have 3 parking by permit only at Morgan Park. The county has asked me if the council would consider giving those up. You would still be able to park in Morgan Park with your beach sticker if there's a spot available. according to the county, if we give up those 3 parking by permit only spaces, we will only need 7 more parking spaces. And we do have a purchase order. Once Drew finishes with the beautification on Gulf Boulevard, he will immediately start looking at some type of maybe reconfiguration at Morgan Park for those additional 7 parking spaces. I did meet with Andy Squires last Wednesday afternoon and asked them if the council does approve giving up those 3 spaces, that we would want something in writing from the county and DEP saying that at this point in time, that we are in compliance with the parking. And of course, Andy said, that's not a problem, I'll be happy to give you a letter. However, subject to change, in a couple of years to DEP's rules. So that's really all that they can do.
How many parking by permits are there now?
There are 3 there.
Only 3 there?
Only 3
So we're
there.
giving up all.
We're giving up all. But you can still park there if you can find an open parking space with your beach sticker on the car.
Thoughts, comments, Bob?
I have a question. If we put 7 more parking spaces at Morgan Park, how does that meet the DEP requirement, because it's so far from the other beach accesses? And there was that whole requirement for, what's the 50 feet to the beach accesses?
I really can't answer that. I'm afraid to say this, but I am trusting what the county is telling me. Maybe I'm crazy to do that. But that's, John Bishop is the one who has worked with this map, and this is what they're saying that we need. So, and now he did say that, he would be happy to come and talk to council about it. If that's something that you would want to do in May, for the May meeting, that's up to you, whatever you would like to do. And Leslie, I'm sure you have a lot of comments to make about this, so.
Her comment, we got a letter from Nicole.
Right, so we don't need any.
It's in 2008, I believe we got that letter, 2009.
As far as the one, in response to your question to a certain extent, as far as the distance from Morgan Park to where the gap is, because it is a primary beach access, i.e. it has a bathroom, you get to go further. Does that make sense?
Yes, I remember that primary access thing.
I still think there's some other things we can do rather than redoing Morgan Park. I think there's some places we can put some bike racks over in like the parks on the intercoastal on 22nd Street. I have some issues with the guys at the county as to how they're interpreting the rule, and I'm still waiting for some answers. They say, well, you can't do this. Well, show me exactly where it says that in the rule that you can't do this. I think, if we make this effort, I think, again, I believe we ought to try for a variance. We've done everything we can do. And I think that I don't think it's unreasonable to try for a variance at that point. We've been over backwards. So that's sort of the way I would look at it.
I agree with council, 100%. Except I think one of those elements for that variance has got to be a support from the county, from approval from the county, which they refuse to give to us.
Right. Well, this has, been a long, painful process, as we all know. And we were 28 spaces short, and we were sort of faced with these drastic options. Put parking on Gulf Boulevard, put parking in the streets, buy lots. And I think we've really done a pretty incredible job of whittling this thing down. We provided 18 spaces through, the bike racks. If we approve this, then we're down to 7 spaces. And I don't know how you can show any more good faith as a city in trying to meet the requirements and what we've done. And so, I still, my goal is to get that down to 0. Of course, knowing that it could all change if the rules change. Or there could be no money available for renourishment, which is the last article I saw. They're all fighting for that. So all of this is good.
And then can we take back the destroy the bike racks and take back our parking?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we'll pull them all up. Which would be easy to do, we just have a nice little page. We'll put benches. But, you know, so anyway, I think, you know, personally, we have, the residents have Delaware Shore parking areas that aren't used very often, and they're certainly available, and more private. You know, I would be more for sort of upgrading those areas for the residents that want to use it, so they could have a nice private place to go and go to the beach, as opposed to, you know, squeezing into Morgan Park with everybody else. So, you know, personally, you know, I think it's a good faith effort to go back to the county to say, look, these are all the things we did to support the variance, and ask them again. You know, they have a new, town manager, they have new people, maybe they'll have a new opinion. But, anyway, any other thoughts or comments? Or?
Yeah, I hate to give up those parking spaces because, like you said, you know, the residents of the city try to find a parking spot over there on the weekend and never find one.
Right.
But you have other places to go.
Right, you do have
Two
Delaware.
other more private places to go.
Yeah, but if you want to drive over there, you can't find a parking spot, and there's people that live further away than I do that want to park there, and if they can't find a spot.
There's 3 other parks that we have
Well,
bike
but
access
the
to.
Delaware Shore accesses, that was my point, that those are very seldom used.
Right.
You know, there's always parking there, and that's available to the city, but, I mean, it's.
Well, like I said, I hate to give it up unless the county actually says, okay, if you give those up, you know, we'll, you know, do something in return, you know. I know, but you keep saying, well, the problem is we keep giving,
Right.
and we're not getting anything in return. It's just like, well, we want more, we want more, we want more. And it's getting a little frustrating.
Yeah.
But we did get renourished.
Yeah, we got,
Yeah, there was last time.
And we haven't received
right.
a bill from the county
So-
at this point.
And I mean, we've satisfied over half these spaces with actually money from the county, which I think is kind of poetic justice. But, you know what I mean?
Has anyone noticed how much those bike racks are used?
So far, I've never seen one.
I've never seen a bike there.
No? But, yeah, that was, but anyway, that's. Yeah.
We made them so nondescript, they miss it.
Right.
Yeah, they don't even see them.
I think they were well done.
Yeah.
Well done. So, any other thoughts or?
Well, I would be in support of having someone from the county come and actually put a face and something on the record that says they'd like to see us do this in kind of exchange for that. I think that would be a good step forward.
Would you want to have, say, a workshop at, say, maybe 5:30 before the May meeting?
That's a good idea.
5:30?
Right. Because it would be good to get their support for the
Right.
variance or whatever.
Right.
So, you know, that's a good.
Because that's been a stumbling block all along.
So,
They're not going to support it, the state's not going to look at it.
I have a question too. All right, if we do not come up with these other 7 spaces, will there be renourishment? The way this map is showing goes all the way down to this yellow area, so 90% of Delaware Beach still would get renourished?
Yes, and what happened last time was the Delaware Beach Resort Motel, by virtue of being a public lodging establishment, gets its beach renourished.
Right.
Okay? The Army Corps of Engineers said it makes no sense
So stop here
to
and
not
start
do
that,
this gap. It's
65
cheaper
feet.
to do that than to stop and then go down and do the motel.
So how much beach space do we have between the motel and the end of Delaware Beach?
190 feet.
Right. But you know, the reality is all the further south you get, that's the way the sand's going in. So really the sand at the north end of Delaware Beach will end up at the south end of Delaware Beach,
Right.
just like it does at Delaware Shore. So, you know, I mean, I think we've kind of overcome our problem personally,
So basically,
even if there were a gap.
if we do not come up with the other 7 spaces, we're still fine. If they haven't changed, or if they haven't changed.
Yeah, I mean, unless they change anything. Like I said, we've got a letter that says we don't need any, we comply
Yeah.
without anything.
Right.
So it's all, but,
Okay, so I'll do that at 5:30.
right, so we'll
Okay.
put this one in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Item number 8, consideration of ordinance 15-01. Paul.
Yes, sir, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending section 5462 of the city code pertaining to an annual residential rental registration fee, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. And I think I probably need to explain why this is here. When we first passed this, we were satisfied that 300 was reasonable, and under the circumstances, we had a big challenge to it, which did have some legal validity as being a potential tax. This council then reduced the fee by resolution to $100, and that seems to be acceptable. Well, the code keeps reading $300, and the resolution is not inside the code. So we just felt, and I discussed it with Nancy, that what we needed to do is just remove the reference to $300 from the code and just make reference to the fact that it will be as set forth by a resolution of the city council. And whatever y'all decide up or down from time to time, whatever it might be, that's what it will be by resolution. So if somebody reads this and somebody wants to rent property, they're going to have to come and find out what the resolution says. Or we're going to tell them anyhow, but by virtue of what we sent a bill for.
Okay. So do I have a motion for ordinance 15-01?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Anyone from the public like to address this? Any discussion on council?
I just have a question for Nancy and Patty. Do you find that more people are registering now that it's only $100?
I think there were maybe only 9 that we didn't collect from, which is a lot. And I think, the 100 is a good figure for now.
So compared to the years we charged 300, are we ahead?
We didn't really charge for an entire year. That's when people started,
Okay.
a couple of letters,
Right.
nasty letters
Right.
threatening to do things to the city if we kept it
Right.
at that. So that's why it was addressed, and that's why we did. And also the economic times, people could not sell their homes, and so we decided to reduce it back to 100, and people really don't have an issue with that. And they are renting their homes and their condominiums for a lot of money, yes, a lot of money.
Question. Do we have, is there a resolution in effect now, so that if someone, once we pass this, someone comes in, hey, we got a resolution for
Yeah.
$100?
We did.
All right, any other discussion? Patty, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Cohen? Aye. Councilmember Gunn?
Aye.
Councilmember Crop?
Aye.
Councilmember Petrowski?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Notaro?
Aye.
Mayor Baldwin?
Aye. All right, passes 7-0. Item number 9, consideration of resolution 2015-02. Paul?
It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, authorizing signatures which are to appear for purchases of certificates of deposit, city check writing, withdrawal, transfer of funds, wire transfers, and any other financial transaction on the part of the city, instructing any financial institution to accept any certified copy of this resolution as evidence of legal authority over city accounts and providing for effective date.
All right, thank you, Paul. Do I have a motion for resolution 2015-02?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
It says, it talks about any one signature.
That's correct. The charter requires either the city manager, city clerk, finance officer, along with one other public official. So we were having, did I forget someone?
Well, no, I mean, but it says it's signed by any one of the 10 authorized signatures. So is this in conflict with the charter?
It should be the city manager plus one.
Right.
I guess is what you're saying.
And the thing is, the bank, our bank only requires one signature, but, I mean, you don't have to have two, but because of what it says in the charter, it has to be signed by one of the charter officers and one public official.
Okay, that's why I was kind of confused about this paragraph too.
Right. Yeah, because it does say any one, so it looks like it only needs one signature by this resolution. It is a little confusing.
Okay, I'll have to bring that back then in May.
Okay, I mean, you understand?
Yes, I do,
Yeah.
I do.
Okay, so we will, we're okay with that. Alrighty, mayor and council comments. Pam, start with you. No comments? Okay. Welcome, thank you. Being here. Lonnie?
No, I had some things from the Big C and I walked up and left them at home, so I'll bring the next one.
That's
Good.
John?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Todd Scott. I'd like to thank him for his presentation, and Mr. D'Angelo, Fire Chief, for his presentation, and thank Glenn for coming in and his presentation last time. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry.
And I agree.
All right. Question?
Nothing?
I had a couple of things. I just wanted to mention that we did have kind of a workshop on Saturday, the 28th, for the Gulf Boulevard beautification, kind of a presentation that Drew had done. We weren't able to get a quorum for the last beautification meeting, but we're going to have another one next Monday,
Next
correct?
Monday at 5.
Right, so that, the purpose of that will be to sort of review all those comments and sort of bring forward, I guess, to the May council what the recommendation is based on that, so. But that was, I mean, we had, that was good. The other issue that I wanted to bring up is really just traffic in Bel Air Beach.
And bridge.
Yeah, I know this is spring break and, there's more people, but traffic has just gotten worse progressively. And I'm guessing that it's Clearwater, bottlenecks of Clearwater pushing people one way or another, but I have a concern about it because it's getting a lot worse.
Can we charge for coming over the bridge?
Well, maybe we'll put up.
Toll booths in
Yeah.
Alan, I told the mayor that we could talk to the county
That would pay for underground.
Yeah,
on Washington.
the issue right now at Clearwater Beach is the construction going on. So as with that construction that's going on in sort of what you call downtown area of Clearwater Beach, it's bringing a lot of traffic south and then over the bridge. I talked to one lady today, as a matter of fact. She was asking about the road closures that we're going to be having here this week. And she said the traffic going back through Clearwater is worse than it is this way. So once they get that construction completed, we should see that decrease, hopefully.
Well, my concern is really when they do complete it, because they're putting a lot more rooms in place, they're putting more people on the beach. My basic concern is that the density of Clearwater Beach is like creating a problem for us.
Yes.
And I'd like to somehow find out from the county, about the traffic as it was, maybe the last time they did a count, and maybe do another count out here, because, I think the construction is true, but I think it's getting worse because of the density, not because of construction.
Well, yeah, there's some things coming down that we have discussed with the county that will be coming out probably in the next year, especially as we get closer to doing the engineering here at this intersection here, as far as the camera and the computer control of the signalization. Sergio, I don't remember if you remember him coming out here, he was working on that before.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some things that come in with their IT program as far as the traffic signalization here and what's going on back across Clearwater Pass. So we could possibly get Tom or Sergio out, but this is something that's coming out probably within, I'd say within the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know more about just the physical number of cars that are on Gulf Boulevard now.
Oh,
Yeah, there's better ways to
Yeah.
move them through, I guess, with signalization, but I have a feeling that density in Clearwater Beach is affecting the quality of life in Bel Air Beach. because
Oh,
of
yeah.
the traffic.
Yeah,
And-
very,
and I
very
just,
much so.
you know, I don't know what to do about it, but I'd like to be able to quantify that and maybe take it to the mayor of Clearwater and talk to him about that. Because, you know, there's got to be some, you know, they just can't keep adding density with all the traffic and parking problems they have already. I mean, that's my point.
Yeah, and it's a very valid point, just simply because we're using that same point to try to acquire some of the transportation impact fees to pay for our signalization here.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a valid point, and it's something that the county is aware of, so.
I mean, the worst thing would be that, okay, we'll apply some more money, we'll add another lane. That's not what we're looking for. That's not the kind of help we're looking for.
Yeah.
You know, we have a nice city here, and we'd like to sort of keep it sort of on the down low.
It,
And having lived in Island Estates for a long time and dealing with these issues with the city council over there, they have actually ignored all their density rules. They have, for the benefit of developers over there. They have totally ignored their road impact capacities and rules,
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, the whole concurrency requirement.
Yeah, absolutely. And quite frankly, I think what needs to be done is not just sitting down with the mayor of Clearwater, it's for someone like yourself or vice mayor or somebody else to go to the city council meeting in Clearwater and tell them what's happening over here, and what they have created that is adversely affecting this city and possibly even Indian Rocks, if the people are going down that part of the crossover.
Yeah, it'll get down there. I mean, right now, the next closest outlet is Bel Air Causeway. And so it'll keep moving south. And I mean, I'll be happy to do that. I was trying to get something from the county to quantify it. Because I'd like to be able to say, you know, we did a traffic count in 2006 and it was X number of cars. We did one in 2015 and it's Y. And I'd like to be able to quantify it. That's why I'm asking for Tom to come and talk.
We can see if they, when the last one was that they did.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that would be real evidence of the issue. I mean, I see it go by.
Well, the Sundays that I've been in here, we've had traffic backed up to Publix. And I mean, that's at 12 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, and back to
Gas public.
almost to,
And for benefit of other publics.
Yeah, but it's really bad. The one area you might want to look at is these development agreements that municipalities have when they do a development agreement with a developer. That usually winds up going to the county also. How it's going to affect the roads and such as that. You might wind up, this is just a small recommendation, talking with your county board of commission as far as making some countywide stipulations as to the density requirements for some of our beach communities. So, I do know it's a big issue when it comes to planning, and it's going to get worse before it gets
And
better.
if they enforce concurrency, which basically says there has to be infrastructure in place to support
Right.
the new development, or they have to provide for it through that development. You
Yeah.
can just get a traffic engineer to go out there and do a study and tell you that we've got a problem.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Yeah, it's not,
It's,
you don't have to.
yeah, it's, I'm up and down these roads all the time, and it's a lot worse.
So I mean, I would, if you could get, and maybe we can put it on, you know, we have a workshop or whatever, but I'd like to meet with Tom Washburn and get all the information I can about Gulf Boulevard and what's happened over the last 5-6 years. And so, and I'm fine with going, or Leslie, or whatever, to go talk to Clearwater or the county, because it really is affecting the quality of life here. And it's exiting issues, emergency issues. I mean, there's a lot.
Well, we have to leave 15 minutes earlier.
Right, yeah, it really, you know, we sort of got used to it, I think, when they were paving the road, and we said, oh, you know, but it's really getting ridiculous.
It's frustrating.
Yeah,
It took me about 12 minutes just to get out of my street.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real problem.
Find out the last traffic study on Gulf Boulevard.
I think it was about the same time that we, Phil Graham did the beautification. It was right about that same time, but it's going to get worse, and without getting one municipality into another municipality, if you use the county, you'll probably get more bang for your bucks.
Right, that's right. And even if we have to pay for another traffic count, I wouldn't mind doing that just to see, because it's, again, it's affecting the quality of life.
Yeah. You know, Sergio might have that already, I think, so we can get that done.
You know, I just remember one of the things that was mentioned at the Big C, the guy who visited St. Pete Clearwater said, the good news is all of their advertising is working. The bad news is all of their advertising is working.
That's great. I mean, we love tourists and all that, but I mean, you know, we're just a nice little veteran community here.
That's what happens when you have the best beach in the state.
Yeah.
That's all I got. Paul?
Just want to address the council for a minute with regard to public records. There's currently pending in the legislature a change or modification or amendment to Chapter 119 that'll put a stop to what the Florida Bar has described as scam or sham public records requests. Several members of the Florida Bar have published in the Bar Journal, the Bar News, articles in complete opposition to what's going on, that these individuals that are making these voluminous public records requests sit back and just wait for the municipality to knee-jerk or hesitate, and before they could even think twice beyond the so-called 3-hour requirement that was determined by the Florida Supreme Court in the case of Canella versus Tribune versus Canella. They're filing an immediate mandamus action against that unit of government. And the judges have no choice but to grant those mandamus actions and to grant these attorney's fees. I will tell you this, that the old Boyle firm that was behind this over on the East Coast, the lawyers are now under investigation by the Florida Bar, and appropriately so, and they've slowed down their activities. But I have one here that distinguished city clerk got, Patty, and we had to get back to it real quick because I'm really concerned that somebody's going to pull that trigger on us. There is a bill up there that says that they're going to have to, before they can file suit, send us a certified letter just to verify the fact that we got the request, if nothing more, and send us a certified letter that if they don't comply, if we don't comply, they're going to go for a mandamus action. Well, we need that legislation. And I would ask this council to direct either the mayor or the city manager or somebody to write to both Representative Ahern and Senator Jeff Brandes and tell them how badly we need that legislation. Also to find out what the non-ballot amendments were. I'm still trying to figure that out. But the First Amendment Foundation, which is the constitutional mouthpiece for the Tampa Bay Times, said that this will have a chilling effect on the public records and record access. Well, that's sheer nonsense. This is not going to have a chilling effect on anything. What this needs to be done is to put a stop to all this nonsense that's taking place. The latest one we had, I think, was out of Burr Ridge, Illinois, of all places. And we just can't take a chance of getting caught with a mandamus action because we don't have insurance for this attorney's fees. They run pretty high sometimes. So, and I work as closely as I can with Patty and Nancy and even the finance director, Melanie, to get on these things right away. But I just want to remind everybody that window is technically 3 hours. 3 hours. And if we don't do anything else in that 3 hours, that is to respond to say, it's going to take us a long time to get this, we got your request, we're going to be turning over staff, and you'll have it in due process, but not to go beyond that 3 hours. The minute that request comes in, the clock starts ticking.
Well, do you have a bill number?
I had it, and I don't know what I did with it.
But if you got a copy, maybe you could just get Nancy and she could distribute to everybody. I mean, that's a good point.
So we really need to contact our legislators and tell them, you know, give us that relief because these people are taking advantage of the Florida Public Records Law. And it's the lawyers. Remember that.
It's always the point.
It's always the lawyers. All right,
All right,
that's all I have.
all right, Nancy.
Yeah, just briefly, first I want to thank Melanie for her hard work. I mean, that she dreads that time, and she spends so much time on the Capitol. It usually starts when November, December, Melanie.
On a year round,
Yeah.
it's not quite so overwhelming.
But it takes her a very, very long time, all day long, working on that, and plus doing her other duties, so thank you for such a good job. The other thing is, I want to let council know that I spoke with City Attorney Marino and asked that he come up with an addendum to his original contract, so long ago, 1998, 1999, which he did do. And the addendum shows the two separate hourly increases over the years. There were two separate ones. I think it was 09 and then 2013. And also in that addendum, it includes the $1,500 retainer fee that you approved last month. So I just wanted to let you know that he has done that. And if I were you, I would stay off Gulf Boulevard on Wednesday, the whole day. If you've got to do errands or grocery shop, go the day before, the day after, because the palm trees, the landscaping is going to be on its way, and that's going to be Wednesday the 8th. Alan was so good to get the signs up, the flashing signs up there that are telling everyone.
Oh, why spring break?
Well, spring break in Pinellas County is over.
I understand, but the college kids are still coming here.
Well, maybe they'll go to another beach, because they're not gonna, you know, it's not gonna be all day long, but there are going to be like.
Total closure?
Could be for time, for a period like there was when they were resurfacing Gulf Boulevard. I mean, these are big trees that they're bringing in, so. Hopefully it's gonna be done all in one day.
One day on Wednesday.
One day, yeah. But they will be working on Gulf Boulevard every day this week, but Wednesday will be the worst day.
What time are they starting on Wednesday?
Did we say, I think that, oh, and there will be two Pinellas County sheriffs out there specifically directing traffic. They're not our deputies that we're taking away. We're hiring two additional, so we're doing everything.
Is there by any chance a sign that says local traffic only?
No, you can't do that as a county road, so you cannot. You
What?
have to keep it open.
What they'll be doing is they'll be closing for the north median and for the middle median, they'll be closing the southbound lane, okay? And that'll be while they set the trees. Then once they get up to the median that's the closest to the intersection, they're gonna flip over to the other side and have that lane open.
So somebody will be directing traffic?
They're gonna be directing traffic. That's gonna start at 9 o'clock and it should be over at 4. The road will not be totally blocked at any one time unless there's a problem, you know, so, but
And there's always.
yeah, but you're gonna have a DOT company out of Tampa that's gonna be directing traffic. It just won't be your contractor out there with a few guys. This is a professional traffic directing company certified by MOT. We'll also have two deputies out there, one on the north end and one on the south end. So we'll try to get you by as fast as we possibly can. Just bear with us that one day and we'll get her done and you'll be ready.
Certified. All right.
And that's all.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.